Cool. All right, guys. This episode is gonna be fully in English. Welcome to a new episode of Casual Confoes, the first one in English. We have a guest, Jeanlucsr, and our co-host Greg. You guys are familiar with Greg. He's a certified technical analyst. Is that correct?
Yep,
Okay,
that's right.
I'm gonna remember it now. And Jean-Luc is one of the most, I'd guess, influential social media ambassadors in Suriname. And the topic for today is gonna be Hive. And why Hive? Basically, from Steem to Hive. Hive is I guess, a social network on the blockchain. And we've had previous topics on blockchain and the financial aspects of it. And I think it'd be interesting to have another perspective from our very own social media expert. Yes, you can keep
I'm
smiling,
blushing here, guys. I'm blushing. I'm really blushing here.
Fully deserved.
Yeah.
Fully deserved.
No,
Yeah,
you're giving me too much credit. I just like to connect things. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna connect a couple of things I'm really interested in. We're gonna connect blockchain technology with social media, with communicating online. The only part that I'm really not big into is I'm not a money person, so I'm really trying to learn how to go about that part, because like one of the catchy things, the most liked things about social blockchain and dApps, decentralized apps and decentralized platforms that we're going to talk about is also a little bit of economics. There's a certain amount of economics behind it, and I mean, if you get upvoted and you get rewarded in actual cryptocurrency, I think that's something that's very interesting. For me, it's not the primary goal or anything, but it is nice. And I think we'll also talk, if we're going to talk about social blockchains, we're also going to talk about a little bit about basic income, universal basic income. So I think it's important to discuss that as well.
right. I think we could kick off like where it started. I guess our first interaction with the blockchain and the social media aspect was Steem. And
Yeah.
this was about 3 years ago, 2017 or 2018. I know
The
I
beta
created.
version, I think the Steam blockchain itself, the beta version came around, I think maybe late 2016, early 2017, and we got into it in 2017. And I think it was Fausto. I think Fausto was the one that everyone tried to get everyone in. I don't know if there's somebody else that I know. Timothy was already familiar as well with it, but I just got introduced to it, spent like 2 3 months looking at it, couldn't decide what to do with it. And I think at the end of 2017 there was this big rush that everybody started getting into crypto because Bitcoin was just blowing up. And that's when I really was like, okay, I haven't done anything. I think right before the big jump, the big crypto jump in 2017, I started like 2 months before that, in October 2017. It was the first time I started posting, and I had no idea what to do, because it was, the funny thing is, these social blockchains they're pretty much like social media. Like if you start on a channel, like we talk a lot about Suriname and Twitter, like Surinamese people on Twitter, it doesn't really match that well. I mean, there's a Surinamese community on Twitter, but if like the average Surinamese person comes to Twitter and they start posting, they have no idea what they're doing. And it felt the same with Steam at the time. And I was like, okay, is this gonna work? But in the end, now it's been 3 years, so I kind of have a better grasp. And then, of course, there's a lot that happened to the platform and why we switched to Hive, and a large part of the community switched to Hive. So we'll definitely get into that. But in 2017, that's basically when it started.
Yeah, I created my account, I think in July or June 2017. Looked at it 1 or 2 times, but it's only when you guys started using it as well with Fausto and the other
Yeah.
Discord channel. I got into it again, posted some stuff, but I think I only lasted a month, maybe 2 months max. So yeah,
Yeah. So what
there's
was your
two
first
parts to
impression?
that.
What do you remember from it?
I guess my first impression was, yeah, it was very bare. Like, if I had to compare it, it was like a Twitter, but not as integrated with topics. You had some hashtags on one side, and a lot of the content I saw was financial related, like people pumping charts. Uh, so that was,
Yeah.
I guess, first impression. I wasn't really feeling it. Only later on, I saw people doing writing, like photography stuff, like little communities got created after that. But I never really got engaged with them. So I think that is an important part as well to, get integrated into such a
Yeah,
community.
it's funny. It's funny because I recently, like this week, I wrote a post about a newbies post on how to use Hive and when you first get started, what you should focus on and what you should know. And a lot of these things I didn't know about. Like for instance, one of the people that really helps. I think her name is Brit. She really, and it's funny because she's from the Netherlands, and I studied there for I think 4 or 5 years, and she is one of the people that really helps like newcomers to get acquainted to the platform, to the blockchain. And it's a funny thing because I didn't even know about her Discord, and there are a lot of Discord channels that really help like people starting out, like what should you do, how engaged should you be, what's the kind of engagement that works. But just like you, I think the first, when I in 2017 went on the platform, it was, you almost had like this social pressure that you had to
Yeah,
post about financial related stuff and blockchain related stuff because otherwise it wouldn't matter. And I think the big break came when I started in 2018. I started free writing because I like to write. And there's a woman, Marianne West, and she runs a daily 5 minute prompt free writing. So you can just go in, she gives you like one word or a sentence, and then you just put a timer for 5 minutes and you just start writing. And then whatever comes out, you just post it online, and then you can, of course, post it on the daily prompt post as a comment, and people will look at it. And that's a community, that's the first community for me that kind of made sense. Like, okay, now I actually, at least I have something to do
mm,
daily. At least there's something that I can post and I can talk with others. And I really started, of course, trying to be the social person commenting on things. But if you couldn't relate, it stops easily because in the end, these kind of
yeah.
social platforms are all about interest. If we have similar interest, we're going to start talking. If there's no similarity in interest, I mean, I can be the nicest guy, you can be the nicest guy or woman, but if we don't have a mutual interest, it just stops there. And that's what happened, I think, at least in the first year of the platform.
Just real quick, Greg, you don't have a Steemit account, right? Or Hive account. You just got recently familiar with it? Because I remember you saying you need to do homework.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah, I think,
complete noob.
well,
Complete noob. I just
you would fit in perfectly. I think you could go on Hive and go on Leo Finance, and you would love it there. I think there's a community there that, and especially, and that's the thing which I think in Suriname we're not understanding enough about social media. It broadens because, like, traditionally speaking, we're very much in country inward, so we focus on what's happening between the borders of our country, and we don't look at the opportunities outside. So I have often people coming up to me and they're like interested in something and they can find nobody that's talking about it. And then the funny thing is, you go online, you go on Twitter, you go on Hive, you go on any social media platform, and you start realizing, like, wow, there are a lot of people just like me, just in a different country, doing the same thing. And that's the idea behind social media. So I'm pretty sure if you go on, I'm just called Leo Finance because it's one of the communities that I know that does a lot of finance related and that's kind of interest kind of postings. If you would go in there, I would think you'll find it a gold mine. You'll immediately find out like, oh, these people know what they're talking about. These things are really interesting. I should invest more in that. I think you will love it. Yeah, definitely.
So,
That's very interesting. And
Yeah.
I'm happy you added the point that social media has that kind of amazing qualities because the toxicity of social media often gets highlighted. and people don't specify enough that people that are into a niche subject or often considered a black sheep, you can find people who are interested in those topics online. So that's great. Leo
So
Finance, you said?
yeah, Leo Finance. So this
Right.
funny that you mentioned him. I'm going a little bit, and that's the funny thing because most people who look at me on social media think I have a technical background or a background in communications or something like that. I did social science. So the thing you just mentioned about the perception of how a platform is, you as a person kind of decide in what kind of social media environment you are. I'm going to give a very simple example. I studied in Tilburg in the Netherlands. I studied in Tilburg during a time that Tilburg was considered the most criminal city in all of the Netherlands. I never saw violence because I was in kind of this student community where the most violent thing that would happen would be a drunk person slipping and falling down on the floor. You know, occasionally maybe a fight would break out, but it wasn't really that violent. But in the same city, there was a lot of violence, which I never saw. And this really also puts in perspective like what part of the community are you focusing on? And we as Surinamese people are very Facebook driven. And Facebook, of all the platforms, in general, is the most toxic one. It just is. And it's the most toxic one because there's the most information there and it's the easiest platform to completely get sucked into a black hole. It really is. And I think Twitter has a very dark side as well. But the dark side of Twitter people don't kind of interact with the other side. Like, you know, you have like this really this Twitter community who just only posts about sex or only posts about a certain topic. It's not necessarily dark, but you can get sucked in very deeply, and then it becomes a little bit dark because you have all these kind of different communities, and but they don't mingle. They're like, okay, you're not one of us. You're not gonna understand what we're talking about. It. You're not gonna relate to us. So just get out and go on to the happy fluffy side where you're kind of like not really familiar with what's really going on in the world, and it's divided there. But in Facebook, because everybody's like family and friends, it's very confronting when one of your friends who you consider a family friend or friends who you've known from a very long time ago start posting things that you are completely opposed to, which won't happen on an interest-based platform. So that's the biggest difference. And I mean, for instance, we complain a lot on Facebook. Try complaining about Suriname on LinkedIn. They will just show you the door. Try complaining on Instagram. Nobody will listen. But we're so much committed to Facebook that, and that's also the thing. The media always, like local media, the mainstream media, when they talk about social media, they basically talk about Facebook. They don't talk about other social media platforms. So that's something we just have to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's good that you mentioned that. Like, and I think in general, Facebook, not just in Suriname, but here in New Zealand as well, Facebook is the most commonly used social media platform,
It's the
and
biggest.
that people just sell stuff. It's very similar to what we have back home,
Yeah.
and the thing you mentioned about Twitter and the other social media platforms, the great thing about it, in my experience, is because you're not that bound to the people you know on it. For on Twitter, for example, I think there's a handful of people, maybe 10, max 15 people from Suriname that I follow. The rest are just interest-based, like companies. And it's also a great way, for example, I had trouble with PayPal one time. I just tweeted it, and yeah, you get the reaction because
Yeah, they
if they
help you
don't
out.
react there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
So
that's the great thing
it's
about Twitter. The really, I mean, Twitter is really you're one step away from a multi-billionaire.
yeah,
And
it's
if
a
they see
great
like,
place to
okay,
interact.
yeah, if you're a good person, okay, yeah, they'll just respond. Like they'll, and that's something which is really amazing because they'll just feel you as a human being and just respond to you, which is of course not all of them, but
Yeah.
but
And
there are people that will surprise you, CEOs of big companies that will surprise you and just send out send and reply to your tweet. But then again, you just the biggest mistake that you make often when such a thing happens, because you get starstruck, you think they're your friends and they're gonna respond to everything you're saying.
yeah.
Nah, it's not like that. Gary Vaynerchuk retweeted me once. Yeah, it's not like he remembers who I am. It's not, that's not how it works. But that's kind of the mistake we make when we realize, like, wow, a big CEO will respond to us, so we're now friends. No, that's not it. But if it's interest and they will respond, that's something that doesn't happen on a platform like Facebook. Definitely not.
Before we translate that to how that relates to Steemit, I want to mention one more platform,
Yeah.
Reddit. I'm not too familiar with Reddit myself, but from my understanding, it's really community based and topic based. There are a lot of threads, and
Hey, Reddit is a totally different animal. I think Reddit, if it comes to information based, Reddit is really underestimated. It's also something that we don't actually know how many people use it in Suriname, but there are different levels to Reddit. So the only thing I'm going to say is that both Hive and Steem, I'm going to ask you not, I'll explain why not, but you shouldn't talk about Steam it a little bit that much, because to be honest, we don't like it. I'll explain it in a second. But the Steemit blog and the Hive blog, they have a lot of similarities to
yeah,
Reddit, as into how the interface looks, and maybe a little bit Medium as well because of the length of the articles. But Reddit is a different animal. I mean, like Reddit, I use Reddit as a search engine.
yeah, that was kind of
Yeah,
also part of the first impression I had with the
yeah,
interface.
yeah,
Because if you just do Google search on certain topics, you get Reddit threads and you
yeah,
just go through that rabbit hole.
yeah.
But I've never really delved into how the platform actually works, just for
I
finding
neither have I.
information.
Neither have I. But it's a
So
really commitment. It's a commitment, and I think uh, it's. I don't know which countries are big on Reddit. I know the U.S. is really big on Reddit. I have friends in the US who would be just like, yeah, you should do that on Reddit. Also, distribution, for instance, you want to distribute your podcast. Reddit is a great place if you are in a community to distribute it as well, because of the interest topics and the amount of people that has the similar interest. But Reddit is kind of like, it's so much information. There's so much information about it. And
yeah,
I think that gets underestimated, because even how big the social blockchains are, the amount of information on Reddit is just, it's on another level.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then let's bring it to Steemit, and then we'll bring it to
Yeah.
Hive. So
Yeah.
so yeah, fast forwarding, I saw you 2018. You were very active on Steemit. I tried to
Yeah.
catch up as well,
Yeah.
and I think mid 2018 and 2018, I completely stopped. There was also that mobile app Particle. I think that was a great
Oh,
solution to use your phone, because I'm always looking for something to do on my phone.
Particle was
And
amazing. Particle
yeah,
was really, I'm really upset. But I can fully understand. There are a lot of things that happened on the Steam blockchain. So to make people a little bit familiar with the
yeah,
biggest difference between Steam and Steemit and Hive is, so I'm going to shortly tell the story, and then we'll dive into a little bit more history on how we use the platform. Um, so Steemit is kind of the company that founded the Steam blockchain and had like, and that's the problem with crypto and decentralization. You can't really talk about a decentralized blockchain if there's a company who's kind of
yeah,
ownership in the chain. It's like the same thing with with Ripple, with XRP. Like a lot of like real crypto fanatics are like, XRP is not a crypto. It's connected to Ripple, and Ripple is company owned, and the company can, whenever they want, say like, okay, screw this whole crypto thing and remove the tokens and make the tokens useless if they want to. And that's always been the issue with a centralized chain. So it has always been a fight between Steemit, the company, and the Steem blockchain. So how this blockchain works, I don't know how all of the blockchains work, but I do know kind of know how Steemit was set up. You basically have the controlling company who kind of has a big stake still, and
Mm.
they used to delegate power to people who had good projects. They supported people with good projects. So the intention was always good. Steemit's intention was always good, but the Steem blockchain was run by witnesses.
In
And
layman's
basically,
terms, could you clarify
okay,
what power and
so
witnesses are?
okay, so basically the power is the amount of power you have on the blockchain. I'll get to that more specifically when we talk about Hive. But the witnesses are basically everybody that has an account can vote for witnesses. And witnesses are the people that actually they take care of the blockchain, like in a technical sense. They have the servers that the blockchain runs on, they have the nodes that the blockchain runs on, they do all the hard work. And of course they get paid for it because come on, get honest.
So
Somebody
they're the
has
validators, like
they're the
validating, like
validators. And the biggest, I mean, you could vote basically on anyone to become a witness, but the biggest, I think the biggest 30 witnesses get listed, and the biggest 20 witnesses really get a lot of money to uphold the chain and to service the chain and make sure that all the servers are up and running. So basically, those 20 people are the witnesses, and the witnesses are the top witnesses, and they have a lot of power on the chain as well. And they're kind of independent. Like probably in the beginning, a lot of these main witnesses were kind of like people that Steemit that knew the people from Steemit. And of course, if you've been on the platform long enough, you know everybody. But of course, they were decentralized. So that's the decentralized part. And then you have the centralized part, which is Steemit. Steemit is just a company. But there were already a lot of fights between the Steem blockchain and Steemit because, I mean, at a certain point, it becomes too big. And
yeah.
on one hand, I think Steemit was very much willing to keep it decentralized and really trying their best not to get involved. And that again would piss the Steem blockchain off because they were like, "But you should help us out," which is kind of weird. On one side, you want to decentralize, but on the other, you want when it goes wrong, then when it's, "Oh, big boss, can you help out?" Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
Just for
And
some clarity,
yeah,
so you had to Steem it, the company that
yeah,
issues power and
yeah.
delegates like the voting strength to the individuals, right? To who
Well,
are
depend.
on the
You would if you would start, you would get like 15 Steem power, which is not really that much. Talking in current terms, that would be like you get a couple of dollars.
okay,
And I would,
but
it's gonna get technical after that. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
just for clarity, you have the Steam it company and you have the Steam community.
yes.
And basically, what you're saying is there's been like conflicts between those two.
Always, always.
Yeah.
There have always been conflicts. They have never really been that big. I think a big problem for many people is that Dan Leminer left. Dan Leminer was one of the technical guys who got involved and kind of built the technical system. And I think he founded a lot of other companies, mainly BitShares, but Dan Leminer also has quite a big stake in EOS. And
Mm.
EOS is really popular. And Dan Leminer has been very much involved in EOS as well. So when he left kind of the main group of Steemit, there was already a kind of a concern. And it's been in beta for such a long time. They ended the beta phase, I think, less than a year ago. And what also didn't help and where it really went south, considering the community, is when at a certain point, Steemit was sold to Justin's son. And for the guys that
Steam it
don't
as
know,
in the company,
Steemit, the
Steam it.
company, still company Steemit was bought by Justin's son. And Justin's son is the founder of Tron, the cryptocurrency Tron, and one of Jack Ma's pupils, like one of his students. And that's when it started feeling like a hostile takeover. because he came in with the idea, hey, I'm getting this great community. I already have the Tron community. Now I'm getting the Steem community, and this is going to be great. And then the Steem community was, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? This is feeling like a hostile takeover. You're trying to centralize this blockchain. And there were just too many signs that he was centralizing the blockchain. So there came a fight. I think it was about 2 months of a fight where the witnesses really started fighting against Justin Sun. And he was promising a lot of things. And they were like, no, 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 this is not really going. And of course, behind the scenes, people were already talking about creating a new blockchain and forking. So in the end, what happened? The witnesses, the top witnesses, a very big group of top witnesses, decided to fork, do a hard fork in the Steem blockchain. And basically all the main technical guys behind the Steem blockchain moved over to Hive. And the people, like the real communities, there still are a couple of communities that are active on both, but people that really felt like they were being cheated on, they all moved to the Hive community.
When you say moved over, did Hive exist before Steemit, or is it a result of the fork?
No, it's really a hard fork. So I'm not sure which version of the fork it is. It's 22 or 23. I don't know exactly. And I'm not a technical guy, like I said before. So, but basically what happened is they launched Hive, put it in beta for I think a week, and then completely moved it over. And it was a big deal because there are people, like most people don't understand, people really invested in the blockchain. And they got screwed over big time because to make matters worse, when Justin Sun realized or his team realized that the fork was done and like a lot of communities moved over to Hive, and I don't think many people, because I didn't know this about a fork. If a blockchain forks between two and there's two kind of coins, there's two kind of currencies, and it forks, basically the amount that you have gets split into two. So if I have 200 Steem and a fork happens, I get 200 Hive as well. So I have 200 Steem and 200 Hive.
Yeah.
So what happens now is that a lot of people who committed fully to Hive powered down their Steem, took the Steem out, and converted it to Hive. And a lot of people that had a lot of power and money on Steem still had a lot of power. So what the next move was that Justin Sun did, he removed the power and the money of all the big accounts that had been fighting against him.
And he can't
Which is
just do
there.
that.
No, they can't. That's the problem. That's where he really proved that he was centralizing the blockchain. That's just where you prove like, okay, I'm centralizing. You're kind of censoring it and taking power away from people that it's theirs. And the best part of this is when they made this, because this was another fork within Steem itself. The best part of the story, and this has been publicized as well. Right before they did that, somebody hacked into the system. All the Steem and the Steem power that they removed from these accounts, from witnesses, from people with a lot of power, and they just removed it and they put it in one account. Somebody hacked that account and sent all the cryptocurrency to one of the exchanges, saying like, this doesn't belong to them. And they put it on an exchange. And they left a note behind like, this is robbery, you're being a thief.
Oh wow.
This is like various. And that's, I mean, let's be honest, a blockchain is never really fully decentralized.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I can guarantee you that Hive is the most decentralized blockchain and decentralized community at the moment. Definitely.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that
Yeah.
part a bit. So the technical guys from Steemit moved to Hive. So
No.
can I
The technical guys from the Steem blockchain, not from Steemit.
from the Steem blockchain? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the basically the people who contribute as independents,
Yeah.
like the open source people.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a similar entity in Hive such as Steem, the company?
No,
No. So
no.
how does the power or the currency or whatever get generated and delegated? Because in Steem, previously it was from Steem, the company that
Yeah,
issues it to the blockchain and to the community. How does
yeah.
that happen now on Hive?
So I don't know if you I don't know about the mining. I to be honest, I don't know how the supply runs, like who controls the supply. For me, I think the witnesses control the supply, but they can't just take it out. It's not, I don't think they don't have the power or the control, because that's the biggest difference. Um, the supply basically was owned by a company. The supply that hasn't been distributed. So that's the biggest difference. To be honest, technically speaking, I don't honestly know how that works. I don't know how they
Yeah,
confirmed that. That's definitely something, and I'm also gonna put this podcast up on on Hive, on the Hive blockchain. So I'm hoping that somebody who's more
yeah.
familiar, more technical, can explain this to me, because I honestly don't know.
Because as it seems now, this is just me making some
Yeah,
conclusions that from the hard fork, basically the supply that was in the um,
it also
circulation
moved.
then got
Yeah,
copied, and that's the max supply that there is. So
yeah, but that's the
people
funny
just
thing.
play with that now.
That's the funny thing, because I'm looking on CoinGecko, and there's a and also CoinMarketCap. The supplies don't match anymore already, because I think the Hive supply is still kind of frozen, whereas
Mhm.
the Steam supply is being distributed and it's already more. So there's already a difference in that. But again, I'm not technical enough to
Yeah.
give you a proper answer to that. So I'm definitely going to ask this question to one of the witnesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Correct.
I have a question
Yeah.
about Justin. You said the little bit I know about
Yeah.
the crypto community is that Justin is at best he's a controversial figure, and the rebellion there was against the supposed hostile takeover of Steam It, was
Yeah.
it based because Justin's son as a person, or because of the idea that Steam It gets sold to a single company or a single person? Would it have been different if it was sold to another person?
Well, see, here's the thing. Because you're always fighting against decentralization when you have a centralized company that's involved, so heavily involved. So it's a fight you can basically never win. And it's something that the previous the previous CEO of Steemit, he really tried. I don't feel he didn't try. But with Justin, you saw immediately the kind of moves that he was making. You saw there was a difference. And like you said, he's always been a controversial figure. Tron is kind of a controversial crypto slash blockchain as well. Um, so yeah, but there were too many moves. There were so many red flags. And at a certain point, like even somebody like me who isn't big, and I'm gonna be honest, I still follow Justin Sun. He hasn't blocked me. He has blocked a lot of people who really came out. But I'm just interested to see what he posts. And one of his latest posts, people were already trolling him on the post. So yeah, I get a sense that he's not really that much love. I mean, I think he looks up a lot to Vitalik. I
Yeah.
think he really looks up a lot to Vitalik, and he wants to be Vitalik, but he just isn't Vitalik. And I think that kind of gets to him a little bit as well. So yeah,
Wh-
I mean, I think
wh-
it's also because him as a person, of course. I think that's also, but not necessarily because him as a person, but the actions he took against the blockchain. Yeah.
Where do you follow? Is he active on the Steam platform, or is it
Oh, they kind of
on?
made an account for him. I don't know who manages the account, but I follow him on Twitter, because at least on Twitter I get the feeling that he posts about what he feels is important. But again, I just follow him. I'm not a fan. I haven't been a fan of him. I just follow him. I didn't know about Justin Tron before the takeover.
Yeah.
So it's just for me, and it's fun that he hasn't blocked me, because I haven't trolled him. I haven't actively fought against him. I just took side with the Hive community. I haven't posted on Steam since the Hive community has become active. And
So
I'm
it's
also powering
Steam
down at
is
the
pretty
moment.
much deserted now, would you say, as or like the majority of the community left?
The real community, the people that I care about, and the people I've connected with over the last 3 years, they're all on Hive. But here's,
So
I mean, it's also, and this is a very hard part because people lose a lot of money over it, and they're not always willing to let go. And especially people who have accumulated over
yeah.
thousands of dollars, and they still have that similar power to Steam, and they have it on Hive. Like on Hive, there are a lot of people that are saying like, listen, if you're gonna post the same stuff to Hive as you post to Steam as you're posting to Hive, we're just gonna flag you. You know, if you're gonna try to abuse, I think I can be greedy and get money from both sides. No, they're not gonna allow that. So that's something you do have to consider. Like
So
there's a social control. But if you post different content to Steam than you post to Hive, I don't think people will get upset, especially if you're honest about it. And if you want to continue using Steam, there are a lot of people using Steam because it's also of the reward system. There are less people to reward on Steam now. So you get higher
you have a
rewards
higher
if you post
chance.
something
Yeah.
there. You have a higher chance of getting rewards. And for me personally, I've decided I'm not doing that. But I can understand that there are other people, especially there's some people on the platform that make a living out of it. Like they have to get a certain amount of Steam or Hive uh, to contribute to their family and actually buy groceries with the cryptocurrency that they own. So for them, I completely understand. For me, I'm not in that position, so I'm not going to do that. But I can understand that if somebody lives from the money of Steam, I can understand that they wouldn't desert it.
So hypothetically speaking, what would happen if someone would fully migrate from Steam to Hive, basically cashing out all of their Steam and then heading into Hive?
You just
What would
double up.
happen?
Basically, you just double up. And there are a lot of people who did it. I'm partly doing that as well. I'm kind of falling down on Steam because I'm not using it anymore. I still maybe I consider delegating some of it, but since I don't support Steam it at the moment, it didn't make sense for me to stay on the platform.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm kind of
So
doubling up on Hive now.
so
That's
it's
basically it.
full-time Hive now. And
Yeah,
I think it's nice that we have like three levels of, how deep in it we are. Like you're the
yeah,
most in it. I have some experience and Greg has no experience with it. So let's look at it from a zero experience person. Let's take Greg as our case study. The
yeah,
onboarding process, because when I was trying to migrate from Steam to Hive, yeah, it took me a while on how to do that. And later I realized I just got, because it's a hard fork, I could just use my same credentials, just log into Hive.
yeah,
But I followed your invite link and I saw a whole different onboarding setup
yeah,
process. So can you clarify that a bit? Because the barrier of entry, I think, is a bit high for the average person. Even me,
yeah,
as someone
yeah.
with a decent amount of knowledge, had some issues with getting on it. So how would Greg go about it?
There's, and here's the thing, I'm usually not very big on referrals because referral system often go towards pyramid. So I'm not really big on, but they kind of built a referral system just so that if somebody uh, creates an account through my referral, I get notified. And it's important that I get notified because when you get a Steemit account, Steemit delegates you some Hive power, some Steam power. And if you just make a Hive account, like a basic free Hive account, you start with a wallet that has $0. And I have to give you some or somebody else because there are a lot of people in the community that help me out with these kind of things. Somebody has to give you a certain amount of Hive power. And why do you need it? You need resource credits. You just need to have resource credits on the blockchain, and those resource credits make it possible that you can comment, you can post. So if you're just new starting out, you kind of don't have anything. So you can just look around. But if you want to post and comment, you have limitations because you don't have any resource credits on the blockchain.
Yeah, because that was my
So
question about the
yeah,
supply, because there's no
yeah.
one to issue the new
No, there's no one
thing.
to issue. So actually, we as a community are issuing power for somebody that's starting off brand new. So if Greg gets in, he takes my referral link. The operator, the developer who made this referral system, sends me like 0.001 Steem, which is I think 0.002 US dollars, and tells me like in a message like, hey, Greg just entered here and he wants to be part and he has an account now. And then I go to his account and I kind of lend him some resource credits that he can actually post and comment on things. Because and then when he has earned enough for himself, then he doesn't need it anymore. And I think
So
when you
it,
have around, yeah,
I don't get it. So you have to pay to interact on Hive.
no, you
Why
have to
would you?
have, it works with a vesting system. And again, I'm not technical enough to explain fully how the vesting works, but you need to have research credits to be able to interact because you're making use of blockchain and some you have to you have to have part in the blockchain to actually interact. So that's for the first
Mm.
part. And once you have enough resource credits, you can do it yourself. And the resource credits, I think it's built in to avoid spam. That's the real reason. I think that is that there's no new account that can come in and start spamming everybody.
Mm.
So I think that's one of the main reasons why the system works like that.
so now
But
it's kind of like a private club that you need an invitation to.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah. So that's one of
and
the biggest problems, and that's why you mentioned a platform like Uptrend. It's really like, oh, so if I'm not in the in crowd, I don't get really upvoted or don't get big upvotes. But hey, it's like a normal social media platform. There are people who are big on the platform because they either work their ass off to have as much power as they have, or they invested because nobody's keeping you from taking your crypto portfolio, buying some Hive on an exchange, logging into Hive, transferring the Hive from the exchange to your Hive account, powering up, and bam, you have a lot of power. You have as much power if you want. You can buy in $1,000 in Hive, and you immediately have, I think, 4,000 Hive power, and you're already kind of like above average for people starting out. So basically, either you invest your time and your knowledge in the platform and start posting and get rewarded for it, or you just invest to get the same amount of power. So that's up to you.
in that sense, won't the people with a lot of power now basically
Yeah,
they are fulfilling the role that Steemit would have
yeah.
with the
But
limited
that's
supply?
that was the idea all along. That was the idea all along. So it basically is just an improvement over Steam.
But it's still possible, as you said, someone would exchange by Hive that another Justin's son comes in, buys a ton of Hive, has a lot of power, and then influence the whole network like that.
Yeah, but you have everybody against you. If you would come in right now, if you would say like, I'm gonna invest $50,000, I'm gonna buy $50,000 worth of Hive. I'm just gonna buy everything that's available on the exchanges, and I come in and I come in as this big dog. I have like 200,000 Hive power, and I start abusing the system. Oh, everybody's gonna fight against you. But the other way around, if you come in and you invest like 50,000, you have like 200 Hive power, 200,000 Hive power, and you start rewarding good content. You start making challenges. You start starting contests. You start getting engaged, helping people out in need. You start finding communities who make really good content but don't get enough support. That's the idea behind it. Then you're really helping the community grow.
And is
So
there really a
translating,
culture of that? Of
Sorry?
the big boys helping the small dogs?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
is it? Oh,
Yeah, there is. I can vouch for at least one. They call me Dan. That's an investor. That's his name on the platform. And he really invests a ton. Like he really only upvotes content that he considers good. I've never seen him upvote something that I consider crappy. Um, he also delegates a lot of power towards projects that he considers good. He gives away money for good for contests as well. But there are a lot of them, and I think he's even one of the newer guys who wasn't there like 3 years ago. And there are a lot of the witnesses. They develop so much. There's so much development going on at the moment on the blockchain, like decentralized apps. And that's the thing as well. At its height, Steam had like I think 5 to 7 of the top 10 decentralized apps in the world.
Okay, we're gonna
Yeah.
sidetrack on that a bit in a second, but I guess the powerful thing of Hive is actually the community and less the tech, right? It's more
No,
about,
no, no. The tech, that's the thing. The tech is even getting more developed because
but thanks to
Steam,
the
one of,
community, the strong
yeah,
community
yeah, yeah.
that
The
has that
community. Yeah, yeah.
vision.
The community,
So
everything. I mean, you can see all the projects. And that's what I love about blockchain. Everything is transparent. You can see who is powering who is investing money into other things, and it's very clear. And I think in the time, because you can also downvote, in the 3 years I've been on both Steam and Hive, I don't remember being downvoted a lot. But I know
what would
that a lot of
happen if you get downvoted? Just
so basically if you get downvoted, it says somebody doesn't agree what you're posting or doesn't like what you're posting. And so people can, for instance, the biggest downvote I got is I gave away uh, uh, Hive Basic Income. And basically, Hive Basic Income is you pay Hive to someone to send, and that's it's not really centralized, but it's a community, and that community has accounts. And the person, and I say like, I think Diego deserves some universal basic income, so I give some Hive Basic Income to Diego, and I send it off to a project, and that project makes sure that once a week they give you an upvote when you post. And not everybody likes that system,
yeah,
because it's kind of a service. It's the similar thing with bots, voting bots. Back in the old days, you could give like 3 Steem, and then a voting bot would upvote you like with a lot of very very much power, and you could see like how high the ROI was it. So it's not near that, like it's not like voting bots, but I can imagine that some people are against the service where you pay money
they
and then
try
for
to
the
keep it
rest of your
authentic.
yeah, yeah, and then for the rest of life you get upvotes. I can understand that. So and then somebody downvoted me for using that service. And then I asked the person, why are you downvoting me and why are you against that service? And that person never replied. And then I was like, okay, this is just a grudge. Then it's
Yeah,
just a grudge. But in some cases, like if you start spamming these blockchains, one of the things that is most important about Hive, it should be original content. If you
mm,
plagiarize, they're gonna downvote you. They're just gonna downvote you. If you steal other people's content, you're gonna get downvoted. If you're lying to people, like really, really lying, and I'm not talking about conspiracies, but I'm really talking about um, people who make analysis about cryptocurrencies, they're trending, is it bullish, is it bearish, and they're completely wrong, and they're kind of making misuse of the system, you'll get downvoted. So there
so
are
that's
some.
about maintaining reputation in a
Yeah,
sense,
it's
right?
that's also why you have reputation score. So I don't have a really high reputation score. I have a reputation score of 63, which if you're starting out, you're kind of jealous of. But I'm looking at people, the most people of the people that I interact with, they have like 70 plus. Some even have 80. A reputation score of 80. It's insane. But there is a reputation score as well, and you don't want to focus too much on it because you know it's not fair to
Yeah.
upvote somebody based on their reputation score. I don't think that's a good thing.
Okay, so let's backtrack a bit. Greg, do you have a clear idea on how to get to Hive now? I think you
Yeah.
still need some
Okay.
clarification.
No, so I'm
Yeah.
busy with
So
the onboarding process at the moment. I posted my first introduction post, which I will send to you, Greg.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the onboarding process, there's a developer, I think his name is Room Service, who kind of really committed to creating different services, and one of the services is the onboarding service, and it's getting a lot of traction as well. So it's getting easier to onboard. I do understand, like if you don't know the technical side of it, you can get lost, but also you should be yourself. And I mean, it's a new platform. Unless you're really big and you have like 10, 20,000 of followers, then I can understand that changing and going to such a platform, you need some additional support. You need, you know, like if you tell 10,000 people, yeah, you should come to Hive, then those 10,000 people should really start contributing as well.
Mhm.
But if you just start out, I mean, when I started out, my post would get 1 cent per post, one US translated in US dollars, I would get a dollar cent per post, which is fair. Nobody knows you. So why should you get more than a dollar cent per post? But my latest post got a lot more because I know what I find important to post about, but also I know what the community finds important as well. So I recently made a decision. I'm going to start posting quality stuff, and I'm going to stop posting quantity, because I used to post in quantity. And I mean, if I write 5 minutes of free writing and I post it online and I get 20 cents for that, I think that is damn good. That's really cool. I just spent 5 minutes writing out of the blue. It doesn't have any structure, it doesn't have any other value than writing, and I get 20 cents for that. I think that's a really fair deal. Don't you think?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I start
Now,
writing about, if I start writing and I write like almost a complete booklet, which takes like 20 minutes to read, and
mhm.
I get upvoted to amount of $20 for that particular post, yeah, it's worth it because it's quality content.
uh, the one thing I think I might have a problem with
Yeah.
Hive is that the community of Hive is typically uh ironically a hive mind. Usually crypto people, people under between 20s and 30s, and there's sort of an incentive to go with the mob. And if you go against the mob, you're gonna get demolished. So if
You're
you
gonna be
Community.
surprised. No, you're really.
there's
I totally. You got the hive mindset correctly. I mean, that's why we try to explain people find a community. But there's a big but. I never been big on communities. In my 3 years, I've never been like a prominent figure. Maybe of the free riders because I like free riding, but I've never been a prominent figure. I never really helped out the free ride house to distribute the daily prompts. I've never been considered part of their in crowd. They like me.
mm,
I interact with them, but I'm not really part of the community. I don't discuss in their Discord or anything like that. You don't have to do that. And the most interesting part that's kind of a misconception, the people on Hive, they're not people our age group. There are a lot of like 60, 70-year-old people on Hive who do this because they love doing this, love talking about certain topics. There are a lot of mothers on Hive who kind of enjoy the community and help all other moms out. It's amazing. This community is the variety of ages and the variety of people on it. You can have a 60-year-old guy in in Britain, and you can have a 20-year-old guy in Indonesia, and they have something in common, and they just click and they have general conversation. That's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
what's the incentive on
Yeah.
going on Hive and talking about those topics and going on your regular mainstream
Social
social
media.
media platform?
Okay, it's who do you want to interact with? That's the first one. And secondly, the second incentive is of course the rewards. But it's not just rewards. There are a lot of people who are not there just for the rewards. It's really for it's also for people who don't have a big connection with kind of Facebook because they don't have a lot of family on Facebook or they don't want to talk on Facebook with their family and friends.
Would you say that the majority of people currently on Hive are like creators, content creators, or do you have like a lot of people who are just like lurking? I should update your lurker status in the Discord as well. But yeah.
So here's the interesting thing about that. There are a lot of lurkers. I mean, there are a lot of inactive people there as well. There is an account that upvotes me quite often that hasn't posted for 3 years or like 2 years. So that's normal because there are also people like I'm really thankful for a lot of people, and I try to thank everybody, but there are just some people that really supported me. Like I didn't ask for their support, but they would upvote me when I put out good content, and they would always be there for me. And I know exactly who those people are. And sometimes when they post something, I also converse with them on their posts. And that's the problem. That's also an issue which occurred a lot with Steem. At a certain point, everybody was just there to create. And that's when you have like a community with just creators and nobody takes interest in other people's work, that doesn't work either. So that's why they build in contests and they encourage engagement as well. And there's a lot of engagement. And this is also kind of similar to Twitter. Like 2 years ago on Twitter, if I would tweet something, nobody in the Surinamese community would respond. I would get likes and retweets from communities outside. But now if I post something on Twitter, Surinamese people actually respond to my tweets, which is kind of exciting.
Is that due to
Same
more people being on Twitter or?
but also people kind of finding each other as well. Better understanding on how the platform works. It's the same with Hive. If you understand how the platform works, I start commenting, and like not everybody, like some people, I comment on their posts and they never comment back on my posts because they just can't relate to the content that I make. And then others are really becoming my friends. I have at least 5 people on Hive who I would consider friends. Mariana West, the person who is responsible, Faust is the person responsible for me being on Hive. Mariana West is the person responsible for me being active on the platform. I've met her several times in San Diego. One time we met
Oh,
up like at a local place, at a place, and one time she actually invited me in. I met a part of her family. You know how cool that is?
that is nice.
You
Yeah,
know how cool
that
that
sounds
is?
amazing.
So, I mean, it's like real, genuine people as well. It's like on all platforms, on all social media platforms, you have people who are just there for something to gain for them, and you have people there who authentically just connect.
How much time would you say that you spend on Hive on a daily slash weekly basis to get all those interactions and create content?
The question is, are you willing to take time off of watching YouTube videos? Are you willing to commit more to Hive than you're committing to Facebook? That's the big question. If you would just say I'm gonna be silent for a month on Facebook and I'm gonna spend the same amount of time I'm spending on Facebook, I'm gonna spend on Hive, trust me, you're gonna like it. But if you're just make a account and then after 2 weeks you're like, I should post something on Hive, and then you post something on Hive and it's not really that good, but you just wanted to post something and you look at the rewards and you're like, oh, 3 cents.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, then it's not gonna work for you because that's not. I mean, in the beginning, if you're like starting off, you will get more rewards for commenting on other posts and them liking what you're commenting than from what you're getting on your own posts.
Mm. So the engagement is the important
The
part.
engagement is important.
Would
Like I think you should at least participate in contests, join communities you're interested in. You don't have to be that active. I mean, I've never been really active in a community, but yeah, but never longer than a month. So you should just start out, and there's always someone who has a similar interest, and they will not be they will be disappointed if you just disappear for a month, but at least they'll remember you when you come back.